Landlords in Fort Worth, Texas are just saying no to participating in a government program that would house homeless families. But the problem is the government bureaucracy, not the families. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of Fort Worth, Texas. Obviously, Texas is one of those places. They've got lots of strong landlord property rights protections there, and landlords, we don't have to participate in programs such as Section 8, which, a lot of landlords, they just don't want to deal with the tenants. They don't want to deal with the government bureaucracy. They don't want to have to deal with any of that nonsense. So they actually have written into law that, hey, if you're a property owner, you don't have to rent to the Section 8 tenants. You don't have to accept these vouchers. You don't have to participate in this program. And there's other programs like that out there. And the one I'm covering in this article today actually is for housing families who are homeless, right? And it's a rental assistance program. So a lot of people would be like, oh, well, this is a good thing. Landlords should want to participate. Well, when you're dealing with the government, when you're dealing with the bureaucracy, the good intentions on one side end up becoming a nightmare sometimes for people on the other side. That's why a lot of landlords don't want to participate and why these people are having trouble finding a place to live, okay? Just because the government is providing them rental assistance money, providing the money for the rent, that doesn't mean that, hey, these are good tenants that we want in our units, or that we want to have to deal with the headaches and the hoops that we have to jump through in order to get that money. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. So as a landlord, I'm a Section 8 landlord, so I do rent to some Section 8 tenants, right? I don't like the program, and I'm considering not doing it moving forward. After the current tenants move out, I probably won't rent to Section 8 again. But what do you think of these rental assistance programs for housing the homeless? Would you want to participate in that sort of program? I don't think I would, there's a lot of issues I have. I worry about, hey, what happens if the government program doesn't get funded next year? And then I've got these tenants living in my place who have no ability to pay the rent on their own, okay? So I'm just sitting there, and I'm supposed to be their homeless shelter? No, I don't think so. The other issue is a lot of the people who are in this super low income class, right? They don't have the respect for a property like the people who actually have to pay for it. So you might have your property torn up, or you might be more likely to have your property torn up. Not saying that's always the case, but as I've seen with Section 8 tenants, and as a lot of landlords have seen, it is the case more often than it is with people who are paying, okay? So anyway, put your opinions of this sort of program down in the comments below, and let's get into this article. This article is coming from thestartelegram.com, and it says, 350 Fort Worth homeless families have rent money but can't find a landlord to accept them. And from looking at the title, the impression is that, oh, well, these people, they have the money to pay the rent. No, they don't, okay? They have government vouchers. So the government is promising to pay the rent for them. There's a big difference between somebody who has a job and it has the ability to pay the rent and somebody who has a voucher. Okay, so anyway, let's get into the article. There are 350 households in Tarrant and Parker counties that have rental assistance to pay for a place to live, but can't find a landlord to accept them. Tara Perez, who oversees Directions Home, a Fort Worth program that focuses on housing and homelessness, cited the number at a recent forum and said 78% of landlords in Fort Worth don't accept rental assistance. As Fort Worth grapples with a growing homeless population, leaders pointed to the challenges of trying to house people when landlords are unwilling to accept the housing vouchers that would pay their rent and get them out of homelessness and into a permanent home. Lauren King, the executive director of the Tarrant County Homeless Coalition, said the majority of people who have vouchers but haven't yet found a place to live are in Tarrant County. And so, that's an interesting statistic right there. 78% of landlords don't want to accept these rental assistance vouchers. And I'd be willing to say that that's probably true when we're talking about Section 8 as well. Okay, so, just think of it that way. 4 out of every 5 landlords says, I don't want to deal with this. And then you have the 1 out of 5. So there are some landlords out there who say, hey, you know what? I will take these tenants. I will take the risk. But what kind of properties are we talking about here? What kind of landlords? Like some landlords, they base their entire business model on, hey, we're going to be accepting these government funds, and we'll have this constant rent coming in, but we offer a lower quality product because of that. Okay, so that's why you see a lot of the houses where they accept these vouchers are located in certain parts of town, and I'm not talking about the good areas. Okay, a lot of these houses are located in very bad parts of town because the properties there are cheap, and the landlords are used to the problems that they have to deal with when dealing with this sort of tenant. So yeah, that's unfortunate, but hey, what's the option? Either you're homeless or you live in a bad part of town. Well, I'll take living in a bad part of town in a house versus being homeless. Unfortunately, though, for these tenants, there aren't a lot of landlords who are taking it, okay? Like I said, 4 out of every 5 are just saying no. And I'd be willing to bet that the main issue is the bureaucracy. All the hoops you got to jump through, the delays in getting the payment, everything, inspections, all of that. Okay, all of these things exist whether we're dealing with Section 8 or if we're dealing with this special, homeless program there in Tarrant County. So, yeah, I mean, there aren't a lot of landlords who, especially when we can get regular market rate tenants without having to jump through those hoops, there aren't a lot of landlords who are going to want to do that. After a dramatic decrease in homelessness during the first 2 years of the COVID-19 pandemic, the population of people without a permanent home has grown by 22% in 2023, according to data from the Tarrant County Homeless Coalition. Homelessness prevention groups got an influx of federal funding in 2020 and 2021, and a federal homelessness prevention groups got an influx of federal funding in 2020 and 2021, and a federal eviction moratorium helped protect some families from losing their homes. The Homeless Coalition wrote in their annual report that the incredible influx of homeless prevention funding kept people housed and met a great need in our community. So they like to, I read all these articles recently, right? And they like to, look, during the pandemic, when there was the eviction moratorium in place and all that rental assistance money, well, there were less homeless people during that time. It's like, yeah, when you force a landlord to house people without getting paid, guess what? We become the de facto homeless shelter at that point. And that is why there were less homeless people, okay? Not only that, but you had the government literally paying people's rent for them. Okay, what do you think rental assistance is? So the government was paying, millions and millions of people's rent across the entire country. And yeah, that's going to keep people housed, but how long-term, how sustainable is that? And will it not create further problems going down the line? Like, where's all this out of control inflation coming from? Oh, well, maybe all that money that you were printing and then passing out for free, maybe that was what caused this inflation. See, but hey, that long-term thinking, I was saying this stuff. You can go back 3 years, back to 2020, when all the eviction moratorium stuff was starting and they were passing out, all that stimulus and all that, and watch my videos. And guess who was saying that, wow, this is going to cause a huge amount of inflation? It was me. Okay, me and other landlords and real estate investors who understand the market and economics better than the politicians with their, stupid ideas trying to get votes, okay? But now that those resources are no longer available and the eviction moratorium is no longer in place, more people are losing their homes and finding themselves without a place to live. In Texas, landlords are legally allowed to decline renters who have housing vouchers as their method of paying for housing. A law did pass the legislature this session banning homeowners associations from prohibiting renters with housing vouchers from the entire neighborhood, although individual landlords can still reject renters with vouchers. So, yeah, once again, they're trying to conflate the two issues, okay? We're not talking about the same issue. When you have an HOA, which is banning landlords from being able to rent to the tenants that they choose to rent to, that is not the same issue as a landlord choosing not to rent to tenants who have vouchers, okay? what it really falls down to in these issues, right? And the thing that I'm always talking about is the rights of the landlord, the property right of the landlord to choose who they want to or don't want to rent their units to, okay? So if I am a landlord and I want to rent to a Section 8 tenant, and then the government comes in there and they say, no, you cannot rent to a Section 8 tenant, I have a problem with that, okay? Or if I'm a landlord and I don't want to rent to a Section 8 tenant, and then the government comes in there and says, you must rent to a Section 8 tenant, I have a huge problem with that, okay? So I have a problem with both of those things because they take away the right of the landlord, our freedom of choice, our ability to operate our business as we see fit, okay? And that is what the big issue is. So, I'm looking at this article and, I'm just saying, hey, you know what? These programs, right, as well-intentioned as they are, they should never be trying to force landlords to participate in them. I have a big problem with that. If you want landlords to participate in these programs, you're gonna have to sweeten the pot. That's the truth, okay? You just can't say, oh, we're gonna, pay you the market rents. No, you're gonna have to give us a bonus, or you're gonna have to give us higher than market rents to take the additional risk and the additional burden of having to deal with you, the government, as well as tenants that are very, very iffy. So, that's just my opinion. If you feel the same way or if you feel differently, put a comment down below and let's hear about it.